Hello and welcome back to this new episode of the China and Africa debate. My name is Geraud. I'm the Africa editor of the China Global South Project, an online media that covers China engagement in the Global South, in Africa, Latin America, and basically, as I said, in every region in the Global South. So this is the China in Africa debate. So every week I bring you a story covering what China is doing and what's happening in China-Africa relationship during that week. So 2 weeks ago, I made a video about China-Africa trade. In that video, I was presenting the overall numbers of China trade numbers and China-Africa trade numbers for 2024. I did not go into the details of the China and each African country trade relations since we didn't have the data yet. And when I was recording that video, I was telling you I was hoping that in the coming days we're going to have details, information about China and African countries and trade relationship in 2024, so we can really dive into the narrative and the relationship and the nature of the relationship that China has with different African countries related to their trade numbers in 2024. So in the meantime, we had the data out of China custom authorities. They released the data of China and each African countries trade in 2024, not only African countries but also the rest of the world. But since we are focusing on Africa, we're gonna only look into Africa. So it was really interesting to see the reality of 2024, which was not really different of 2023 and the years before. In terms of top 5, bottom 5, you're gonna find that in our website. We produce a content, an editorial, a column on that, and you can find the story of the top 5. But I'm gonna here deep dive in those top 5 countries, so we can look the nature and the characteristic of China and Africa relation and see what lesson can we learn out of that, and what the characteristic and what's the observation that you do make out of those data. And I can tell you it's really fascinating because there are so many lessons to draw, but there's also something that we can just notice that just glaring in front of us: the extractive nature of China-Africa trade relation. When I say extractive nature, it's a place where you see a high dominance and a high predominance of natural resources and raw natural resources, as well as really parts of the China-Africa trade. Is it China's fault? I'm not going to say that, because I even wrote a paper on that, because I was in my argument, I was saying that at the end, it's not really China's fault if we do have those kind of relation. It's really the nature of African economic situation right now. And it's not only China and Africa, it's also Africa with other partners, which Africa is suffering that trade deficit, and where we see much more extractive product, natural resources being exported than anything else as part of Africa export basket with the rest of the world. And this speaks about a much more deeper issue related to Africa place in the global in the global economics. And I do think that African countries, we should be working into improving our own economic situation, improving our own industrial landscape to allow us to diversify our economy, to allow us to be able to export other product, not only raw natural resources. It's not bad to export natural resources if it's processed, if it's transformed. We have, value addition. We can really now claim a different position. But if we do not do that work, if we only focus on raw natural resources without really processing it, I do believe that we're not going to win. And this is why the trend that we are seeing in the debate about critical raw materials, where producing countries are asking more and more for local processing, local transformation, local production of advanced processing happening on the ground. It's really a sign that many on the continent have started to understand that there is a need, there is an opportunity where we can really have now value addition in our natural resources. But beside that, we also have to look into different parts of our economy, different aspects of our economy, where we can really use the revenue of our natural resources invest in other part of the economy, to diversify our economy, to be able to produce other things than natural resources. So when the rest of the world looks at us, they don't look at the continent where we only go for extracting natural resources, but we can also go buy something and manufacture product. And I do believe that there is an opportunity to work on that. But that's not the point of of today's video. Today's video, as I said, is much more about trade. What looks China-Africa trade in 2024? Who are the main partners? How it looks like? Who won, who lost, if there was any winners or losers, but what we have to look into 2024. So in 2024, the top 5 of China Africa trade partners were: in Africa, we had South Africa, we had the Democratic Republic of Congo, we had Angola, we had Nigeria, and we had Egypt. Those were the top 5 partners for China in Africa in terms of trade in 2024. So I'm going to share with you here the list that we got from China custom authorities, so we can see who are those partners, where do they rank, and how it looks like overall for the rest of for the rest of Africa, and really what's the lesson we can draw from those numbers. And I believe that you can see now the table here. As I say, we have the list of import and export by country, region of 2024. It's really encompass all the data, all the numbers of what China has traded in 2024 with different parts of the world. And we can see here, I've already filtered it for Africa. If I filter it, you're gonna see other information coming out to see other data. Here we have Africa, Albania, all the different regions, but I did put Africa on top. So we can see here in terms of partners, I've highlighted them in yellow, but not all Algeria, because Algeria was part of another research that we are doing. But here we can see different main trade partners of Africa. As we can see here, South Africa is the top one with 52 billion US dollar, 52 billion US dollar, which is a huge amount. It's a huge number. This is 52 billion dollars. We have import and export, and here we have export. We have export, that what China has exported to South Africa for 2024. According to Chinese custom data, China exported for $21 billion. Here you see that in millions, but the unit, as you can see on the top, the unit is on millions dollars. So you can just multiply by 1,000 and you see $1 billion. So we have here South Africa, 21 billion. But where the contentions, the contention will come with China and South Africa relations, the fact is on this number here, where China say it imported for 30 billion US dollars from South Africa. South Africa custom numbers will tell you, or revenue resource authorities will tell you, there is a major difference, because based on China's number, we can see that South Africa is enjoying a trade surplus. But as I've said that 2 weeks ago, South Africa has been claiming that they're suffering a trade deficit in their relationship with China, and they've been working and asking China to do the work to take measure to allow to rebalance that deficit. During the FOCAC in 2024 in September, Cyril Ramaphosa, president of South Africa, mentioned that he rose the question of saying that we need to rebalance our trade relationship to be able to have a much more balanced relation. But when you look into China's trade numbers, you see a different story. And this is something I've been following since last year, trying to understand where the differences are coming from. When I'm going to find out, when I'm going to see, when I'm going to get to the point where what's really happened, I'm going to tell you how they're solving the issue. But so far from Chinese custom data, it's 52 billion in total, with 30 billion in terms of import. It means that what South Africa has exported to China, for China, is counting as import, and what China has exported to South Africa, it's 21 billion. After South Africa, we have the DRC. The Democratic Republic of Congo. When we look into the DRC numbers, it's really interesting. It's $25 billion in total, with with 4 billion of China export to the DRC. But how much DRC has exported to China? DRC has exported $21 billion of goods to China. It means that DRC is enjoying almost a $17 billion trade surplus with China, which is very uncommon for many African countries. There are few countries that have that trade surplus because of natural resources, but you can see here in the DRC, it's almost 17 billions in total of DRC of DRC export to China. And what we can look into the DRC in terms of overall trade numbers, we can also notice here we realize that there was a surge of DRC export to China by 51.8%. As I say here, it's like trade import. What's changed in terms of percentage? We can see that DRC export to China in 2024 rose by 51.8%. Why is that possible? It was only made possible because during 2024, Chinese mining companies really increased the export, the production of copper and cobalt in the DRC. The world's largest cobalt producer, CMOG, has produced 100,014 metric tons of cobalt, where it was in its provision, it was like 70,000, but they went way above what the provision was making. So when we took all of that, we realized that there was really a huge part of Chinese mining production that really justify why DRC has increased its export to China. Here I'm going to show you another data to just have an idea and see the data and DRC profile when it comes to export to China. You're going to realize how much natural resources are at the center of DRC export to China. It's really sad, but you realize that it's much more an extractive relationship more than anything else. So when you look into DRC numbers here, you realize you have a huge part of copper and refined coppers, all of that really being part of the DRC export basket to China. We see that we have here coppers, refined copper, copper concentrates, intermediate copper product. And when you go down the list, you're gonna find copper, intermediate product copper. You can find some other element, but they're all centered to minerals or natural resources to a certain extent. And when you see here, you see boxes of crates, article of plastic, but we also see other things, like most of them like related to natural resources, cobalt concentrate, coffee, copper master, copper refined, diamond industrial. You go down the list, all of that related to natural resources, either being mineral natural resources, or being just natural resources as is in general. And this is just tells you how much really the DRC is depending for its own export to China to natural resources more than anything else. This is telling you that a lot of things needs to change in the DRC-China relationship. And in South Africa, we have a different a different characteristic, and I'm going to show you the data. So you also have a look into what South Africa look like in its relationship with China. Not much of a difference. We see also lots of weight given to natural resources as well. And here, when I put South Africa numbers here, it's very interesting because you can see on the list here, you see a lot of part dedicated to gold, chromium. South Africa is the world's largest chromium producer in the world, the world's largest producer of chromium and platinum as well. So you see gold and rough gold, chromium, and other natural resources, platinum. But unlike other countries in Africa, you also see something else. You don't only see natural resources, even though in terms of quantity, in terms of numbers, you really have that weight of natural resources. But you also see other manufactured products being part of the export of South Africa to China. When you look at this number, you realize that there is much more diversity here than what you would see in countries like the DRC or elsewhere. You see different fresh grapes, you see avocados, you see different plants. That's really also part of South Africa export basket to China. But is it enough to change or to rebalance China-South Africa relationship? Not much, because we also see, just like in many countries, we see the dominance of natural resources. So China, South Africa is working into improving its relationship in terms of trade, to have the numbers change, to have the export basket to be different. But I really wonder what China can do to improve what South Africa can export to China. It's not only about South Africa, it's also the case of many other African countries where you do have those kind of situation. So when we have DRC, South Africa, we also have other countries in the list. We have Nigeria among China top Africa trade partners. I'm gonna show you here the numbers of Nigeria, so you're gonna see what it looks like and what we go from there. And when you look into Nigeria's number, we see also the same thing here. We see petroleum, natural gas, liquefied natural gas being the dominant element, the dominant product being exported to China. And we see, when you look into the profile, we see different product in there. We see absorbent content, but you also cotton, and you also see different type of product. But overall, in terms of quantity, in terms of prices, in terms of values, natural resources, in this case here, petroleum and natural liquefied gas being the main product that are exported to China by Nigeria. And I'm gonna try to put those lists on the website so you can download them and find and see for yourself what it looks like. But you can download them straight from China custom website, where you can really have access to those numbers, allowing you to yourself to kind of understand what's to look like and what's to look for and what's to understand. Let me here find the website of China's custom website, so to allow you to make the research yourself, so you can really also understand what's happening here. I'm gonna share the website with you. I'm gonna make a demonstration here. I was not planning to do that. I'm gonna do that to allow you to find easily what you're looking for, so you can make the research for yourself. This is the website of China custom authorities. I hope that you can see that on your screen. So when you go on the website, you come here on statistics, you go on interactive table. From the interactive table, now it opens on another window where you're gonna be able to find the numbers that you are looking for. You're gonna open here, you're gonna see those custom statistic here. And from those custom statistic website here, you have import and export, and you have the period of 2024 month to month. So basically, if you want to search for, I don't know, China, South Africa, so you come here, select partner, and you come here, select the coding. You see, let's say you tap Nigeria, and it's gonna lead you tap query, Nigeria, you tap Nigeria, you confirm, you tap the month from like January to December by month to really make the breakdown by US dollars. What you want to look, you have to look into import, export. If you want to look for import, you click on import. It means that what China has imported from Nigeria in 2024. You come here, select commodities. You don't touch anything. You don't choose nothing, to allow you to give you a full access, all this data that you need to have. You click on continue. You have inquiry here, so you solve the puzzle. And you inquiry, and then the website is gonna download the data, and it's gonna show you a table showing you different information. And when you click here on download, it's gonna download the data, so you can have access to the same data I've been showing you during this demonstration. So I'm sharing you this so to allow you yourself to make the research to be able to find those information online as well. So beyond South Africa, beyond Nigeria, South Africa, DRC, and Nigeria, as I say, we also have different partners of China. The top 5, I'm going to go back on the list so we can see who are the top 5 of China Africa trade partners in 2024. When you look into the numbers here, we have, as I mentioned, we have Angola as well. Angola with $20 billion. China export, and China exported 3 billion to Angola and imported 17 billion, which means that Angola is also one of those countries with a trade surplus with China of 14 billions almost. We go to Egypt, in total 17 billion, but China exported more to Egypt than it imported from Egypt. So it's exported for $16 billion. And that can be explained by the amount of Chinese company investing in Egypt now, setting up new business there. And you can really see the amount of product exporting to Egypt. But in terms of import, not much of import really happened there. We have like $500 million of export from Egypt to China. And we have also, in terms of trade surplus, we also have a country like Guinea. Total trade numbers with China is 11 billion, even though it's not on the top 5. How much China exported to Guinea? 3 billion. How much imported from Guinea? 7 billion. What they do share in common, what Guinea, Angola, and DRC share in common is natural resources. They are a large producer of natural resources. Guinea is the world's largest producer of bauxite. I think either the second one after Indonesia. It's it's China's largest supplier of bauxite. So that's why you see a huge number in terms of import from Guinea to China. So this is just telling you, to give you an overall visions of China-Africa trade numbers in 2024, what it looks like, what were the top 5. As I said earlier, it was South Africa, DRC, Nigeria, Angola, and Egypt. So you're going to download the list on China's custom data. It's going to allow you to really to dive much more deeper into those data, to understand what needs to be changed and what needs to be reviewed. When you go down, you're going to find other countries, Europe, Latin America. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to also to show you other things. When you look at, for example, China-Africa trade numbers in general, Africa-China trade numbers like $295 billion in 2024. We go now down to compare with other part of the world. We see with Europe, it was $1 trillion. China traded for $1 trillion with Europe. We go down, we go by region. We go Latin America, it was $500 billion. We go further down to look into North America. It was $782 billion. Oceania, it was $244 billion. Can you imagine the whole continent of Africa compared to Oceania? We are slightly above than Oceania. Of course, why you have like Australia among the countries, but it just tells you how much we are not as big that we may think in China trade numbers, in China trade relation with the rest of the world. So here you're gonna have different data information giving you a view on how China traded with the rest of the world in 2024, and I hope it's going to provide you enough information to kind of understand how China is moving in its trade relationship with African country and with the rest of the world. So, as promised, that was the video I wanted to make to give you information about China-Africa trade in 2024, to allow you to understand where Africa it's standing with the rest of the world. And I gave you information and data where you can really download all those data sets for yourself to look into what China-Africa relationship look like in terms of trade numbers in 2024. So this video went way longer than I was expecting. So I'm gonna stop here, and it was a pleasure for me to make you this presentation, to show you those information. And if you like what you see, if it's your first time on the website, please do the usual. Click like and subscribe and click the notification bell. So every time we drop a new video, because every week we're really dropping a new videos on this channel. If it's not the podcast, it's the weekend review. If it's not the weekend review, it's the round table. If it's not the round table, it's the China Africa interview that I do. If it's not that, it's the China Africa debate, just like the one I'm doing right now. So just click the notification bell. You're gonna be notified every time we drop one of our content on this YouTube channel. So in the meantime, continue visiting our website in French, in English. In French, it's projetafriquechine.com, and in English, it's China Africa Project. We also have it in Arabic. You can find it in Arabic from the website in French and in English. Hopefully, I'm going to see you next week again for another video of China in Africa debate. Bye-bye.